Hey guys, what's going on? Your old buddy Tim back in the Revolved Realty studio with another of my old buddies. A lot of people think I'm not popular, but I've got more old buddies than anybody you've ever met in your life. This old buddy is another Zach, the less bearded Zach
Yes.
Childress. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing
Good having you here.
Old buddy. You know what's funny? I got an uncle that every time you're around him, he calls everybody, old buddy, old buddy, old pal.
Old buddy, old pal. Yeah. I think that's maybe a Southern thing because we're so bad at remembering names.
Oh, I can agree with that.
And I'm like, my wife gives me a hard time because sometimes and I don't do this demeaningly,
Of
but
course.
if you're a lady, yes, honey, no problem.
Right.
My wife's like, you need to stop doing that.
Or do that in California.
Yeah, well, I won't.
We'll see what happens.
Let me turn this down a bit. I was teaching an entrepreneurship class once, and I have a bad habit of saying you guys.
I do too.
And I had a lady in the front row stand up and go, I'll have you know, I'm not a guy. And in my mind, I'm like, well, that's pretty obvious. But
It's
in my
like
mouth, I just said, I'm so sorry.
Well,
I'll
and it's
watch
one of those things, instead of saying, you guys.
You guys.
And I had
Yeah.
I was out with my very first, way back when I first started going out speaking and training people across this great country. I had a guy come out to one of my events to watch me and kind of say, hey, change this. He said that I said you guys 127 times. I was like, oh my God.
Well, I got a friend that's a speaker, and he has a bad habit of going, okay.
Okay.
He'll talk for 3 minutes. He'll go, okay.
Right. Like, do you guys acknowledge me?
Exactly. Anyway, let me tell you who my old buddy Zach Childress is. Zach is, I'm going to let you give us a quick bio, but you're an entrepreneur, you're an investor, you are the head of the local Madison County Real Estate Investors Association, and we are going to be talking about investors and investments and how to get started in that, and we want to talk about find out exactly what a RIA is.
Yeah.
But before we do that, give everybody the quick 5-minute thumbnail on you.
5 minutes.
Well, do it in a minute.
Okay.
I've heard you talk. Do it in a minute.
Well, like Tim said, my name is Zach Childress. I was born here in Alabama 41 years ago, but then ventured off
God,
Georgia.
you're a baby. I have boots older than you.
Right? And I feel old when I interview people.
Wow.
But I ended up in California, got introduced to real estate. Didn't know what I was going to do, but real estate really opened my eyes, and came back home 10 years later, and I've been fortunate. Real estate has allowed me to live a great life, buy other companies, grow other real estate branches. I have real estate investments all over. And 10 years ago, I became the president of the Madison County RIA, and we've just been growing it, and we now have 3 locations here in northern Alabama. And really, when people ask me what I am, I say I'm a dad first.
You have some cute kids.
Everything else is just what I do on the side.
So out of all that real estate stuff, the one thing you do not do is you are not an agent.
I am not an agent.
Why are you not an agent?
Because I feel that my skill sets are investing. My 2 things that I do more than anything is raise money and do marketing for lead generation. I feel that I have to build a power team around me, which I always tell everybody to do, and part of that team is an agent. And so therefore, I don't want to have to do what an agent does. I want to do what I can do and what I'm good at and turn it over to an agent and let them do what they're good at, and then we become a partnership.
That's actually very smart. You focus on what you know you do best.
That's right.
And you leave, because a lot of times the agenting is just kind of the paperwork.
Yeah,
if you will, when you're an investor.
A lot of times people, they'll go, oh, well, if I become an agent, I can save 3%.
Yeah.
But here's the reality. If I'm an agent, now I've done all the work to do the house. Now I've got to list it. Now I got to handle that. And I'm not focusing on growing the business. So that 3% is an investment for me into the agent to help me sell more houses while I'm building the company bigger.
Yep. Very smart, sir.
So.
Yeah. Too many people, I think, try to do it all to try to save that 3%, which at the end of the day, that 3% is nothing compared to what it's costing you in time.
Time is the key. That's the same thing like when I meet people and they're like, oh, yeah, I've bought a couple of houses. I'm like, great, so who's your management company? They're like, well, we self-manage. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, oh, why?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm saving 10%. But what's 10% of $500? 50 bucks?
Yeah.
But you've got to take all the phone calls. Like, I self-managed my very first rental property. And never again.
It was enough, right?
That was it.
Yeah. Well, I do an entrepreneur show with a buddy of mine, Tom Riggs. I mean, the one thing we talk about is when you're starting a business, one of the most important things you can do is figure out when it's time to replace yourself in certain tasks.
Yes.
And how you focus on things that are important in growing the business. So
we call that scaling.
Scaling,
knowing
yeah.
when it's time to scale.
Right.
And when it's time to scale is exactly what you're talking about. Like what things have we call it processing, the SOP aspects, standard operating procedures. Once you've identified a process that you can model and you can put somebody else in that place, that's when it's time to scale up.
Right.
Put somebody there and then you go to the next level.
When you can replace yourself, it's time to do so.
That's right.
Unfortunately, and we need to have you on the Entrepreneur Show because I think there's a lot of conversations we can have there. But let's talk about the Madison County Real Estate Investors Association.
Yeah.
Tell the folks exactly what that is, because you've got clubs, you've got groups, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
but talk about those different aspects. And what they
we are a real estate investors association. We've actually are the only real estate investors association in Northern Alabama, and we've been here for over 15 years, helping, teaching, and guiding local investors or local people trying to get into investing move forward in their business. And so, an association is really governed by a set of codes and ethics.
It's more formalized.
It really is. And we have to provide learning centers and education. We can still bring in people in our local area like attorneys and realtors to talk about what the market's doing, but we have to take it a step further. We have to actually comply with education and really making sure they're moving in the right direction. And that is part of what we know as the National Association of Investors, just like the National Association of Realtors, right? So we're kind of under that same umbrella, you could say. So we're really, we can't just get up there and say whatever we want to say.
Right.
We have to record all of our meetings. So if we ever get called, we absolutely do. So if we ever get called for those meetings, we can go through them and say, yes, you're teaching the right stuff, you're going in the right direction. Where, clubs and networks, look, I'm all about networking.
Sure, boy, you are, man.
I'm all about networking. In clubs and network groups, that's what they are. They're about networking. They're about getting together, having lunch, having snacks, coffee meetings. And it's just a group coming together, kind of sharing ideas and talking amongst each other.
Right.
Where an association is more governed to help a new person or even a seasoned person learn the path that they need to go.
So the Madison County RIA is actually a branch of a national association.
Alabama RIA.
Okay, and it's governed by bylaws and that sort of thing.
Yep,
There's
it's all on our
accountability.
web. Yep.
There's more to it than just a bunch of guys. And there's nothing wrong with that, getting together in a room and just
right, because that's
networking.
That's
you do that too.
I do it too, yes, absolutely. Yeah, if they go to our site, MadisonCountyRIA.com, they'll see about us, and then they can actually click on, it says meet the board. So we have a board member, we have chair members, and so we have to meet, talk about the direction, where we're going, what we see, what we want to deliver to our students, and so forth.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, and I think we've covered some of this, the benefits of belonging to a RIA.
Oh,
because in my mind, and you and I talk about this a lot, one of the reasons a lot of folks fail, whether it is as an agent or an investor, is a lack of education 100%. And a lack of preparedness. I saw it on TV. If those guys can do it, I can do it. And that costs a lot of folks a lot of money. Talk about the educational aspect of, if I am someone who is interested in becoming an investor, whether it is just putting money in or renting or flipping or being active.
Any
level. What's the educational aspect?
Well, the good news is that we are growing more and more. I mean, we were standing room only at our last month.
I saw the pictures. I was going to be there, and I missed it somehow.
Yeah, so we're
just
growing
sometimes.
And growing, and we're very fortunate in it. And here's what I want to be clear, like, the Madison County RIA is not about the board. We're just the board that makes sure that
just the governing body.
It's about our community.
Right.
Our community is the reason we grow. It's the reason we're there. It's the reason we've been here for 15 years and we keep growing. But back to your point, why should someone join a real estate investors association, whether it's here in our market or any other market? One, it's because they have the best interest in the members in mind. You can read it on their codes. It's all about making sure you're doing the right thing. But the second part is like what you said. It's the learning center. So like our members, for $195 for the year, they get to come to every one of our monthly meetings for free. Plus, they get a learning center that they get to log into, watch all the past recordings. They get real estate investing training. They get running your numbers training. So they get that learning center. And depending on the levels that they want, there's just more and more and more training back there for them. It gives them discounts on what we call our growth center. And our growth center is where we have like 1-day boot camps, 2-day boot camps, 3-day boot camps. And so they get discounts on all of that as well by being an active yearling.
What do you do at these boot camps?
We teach.
Okay. As long as I'm no good push-ups, I'm okay. You know?
Yeah, so they're like our 1-day boot camps are, we have like a beginner's boot camp. So somebody knows nothing about what's going on in real estate, but they watched a show and they're like, well, maybe I should get some training and get started. And so we have like a beginner's boot camp where they come and they just understand like what investing is and like what should they even be focused on, and you know, what are the terms and what are they looking for and who is a power team, just to really help them get their head around the whole thing. Then we have like next month we're doing our 1-day wholesaling boot camp where we're teaching them how to be, you know, how to really build a skill set of acquisitions, but then also selling their contracts to cash buyers if they don't want to close on them.
Okay.
And then we have like a 3-day boot camp, which is, the title is Become a Local House Buyer. And we teach them the full aspect of the business. And they can find it all on the website, MadisonCountyREIA.com. Yeah. There's a ton of it.
What kind of folks do you see coming to the meetings? Let's talk first of all about the newbies.
Yes.
And we mentioned those folks that see it on TV and think they can do it. Kind of give me an avatar, if you will, of someone who comes to you and they're the newbie. And
well, I mean, a specific avatar is hard because we get them from all walks. Like we get people who come in at 20 years old and we get people who come in at 65 years old. And typically, if we narrow that down, it's someone who's had a couple of epiphanies in life. Number one, they realize the job they're at is not going to get them the retirement that they want because that's coming up. So they're going to go to real estate to build that. Number two is typically the young person who's maybe gotten out of college and now they've started a job and they're like, where is this really going to take me? Like, am I going to be here the next 40 years of my life? And do I want to do that? And they see real estate as an avenue to build wealth. And so now they've said, listen, I need to get educated, which is the smartest thing because, look, nothing against those shows. I think those shows are great. I think that they really spark an interest in people. But where I think it does create a downfall is the shows make it look easy.
Well, they do.
And there's a lot of training and expertise that come in to that aspect of the business. And so when someone just runs off and buys a house and says, oh, I'm going to do this, well, those are actually the best people that I buy houses from because they run out of money.
They got to sell them to somebody because they can't do something with them.
Yeah. They're like, I'm looking at one now that's gutted and the person ran out of money.
Well, let's talk about the money side of this because there's an old saying in our business that you make your money when you buy the house, not when you sell it.
And that's true, but I would just add this to it. Most people think that they make money when they sell it, and that's not the truth. They make their money when they buy the house because that is where they're structuring the right numbers to say, look, this is what it's going to cost me to sell it. This is what it's going to cost me to hold it. This is what it's going to cost me to fix it. This is what it's going to cost me to fix or buy it. And this is the profits I want. So that leaves them what we call a MOP, a max offer price.
Okay.
And that's where if they can get it that number, they have made money in the deal. The challenge that people run into is, one, they don't understand how to formulate ARV, after repaired value. They need training on that. Number two is that, yes, you do make your money when you buy, but you keep your money by managing the budget and the project.
Yeah. So, and one way to do it, you start at the bottom. Okay, here's what I have to pay for this property. Here's what it's going to cost me in improvements, holding costs.
From the top.
Do you really?
Backwards.
You figure out what the ARV is first, and then go back.
We look at it and say, what can I sell this property once it's fixed up? We call that ARV, after repaired value. And ARV is not on pendings, not on listings. It's on solds. Right. Because anybody can list for whatever they want. True, yeah. But value is dictated by what someone will pay. So that's why we look at solds in like kind, and then we say, okay, this is what, we think this property is going to sell for $150,000. From there, we work backwards.
Okay. And that's when it's handy maybe to have a realtor do those comps for you if you don't have the ability to do them yourself. So I think one of the things that I see is even after they run the numbers, a lot of folks will go, well, I can make money. I'll just sell it for a little more. You know what I mean? I mean, again, I'm an old entrepreneur. main concern has always been small business.
Yep.
And the one thing a small business person can do that will kill a business quicker than anything else is lie to themselves. So talk a little bit about, in our world, and your world especially, the importance of being honest with yourself.
Yes, I call it staying in check.
And most people are always on that line,
I
right?
say, look, this is not an emotional business. A lot of people get emotional about real estate, and I learned years ago the first property I ever flipped and got emotional about, I ended up having to move into it because, like what you said, I was like, oh, we'll just add this. Oh yeah, let's go with this nicer tile. Oh, let's. Yeah. Next thing you know, my $80,000 remodel budget turned into $160,000, and I was like, well,
hard to recoup. Huh?
Yeah, I was like, I guess I might as well move into this one. It was nice.
You still live there?
No. So. But it is about staying in check. And so that means being very firm and being very committed to your numbers. If you say you're going to spend $25,000 on the budget, then you stick with $25,000. Right. If something pops up, the contractor comes in and says, Zach, look, we got to replace this whole wall right here. Well, what's that going to cost me? That's going to cost you another $3,000. Well, then I need to go into my budget and say, where can I get rid of something?
I'm not just going to add it on top.
Right. Yeah. So that I stay in check on that process. And the other one is once my agent I'll run an ARV on myself, and I'll say, okay, this looks good. Yeah, this looks like a real good deal. Then I'll give it to my agent so that I'm not wasting my agent's time shoveling every single deal to them, right? Then they'll come back and say, yep, Zach, you came up with 150. I think you could sell this for 155. Awesome. So now I have two numbers that validate I'm going to be able to sell it between 150 and 155. Right. And I stick to that. I don't go, I went over budget by 10 grand, so let me see if I can sell it for 165. Yeah. I don't do that. Yeah. This is what it is, and I'm not budging from this. And that is just discipline and removing emotion from it and saying, look, if I thought I was going to make 20, but now I'm in a situation I'm only going to make 8, then I only make 8. Yeah.
I think the most important thing you said there is take out the emotion.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to fall in love with a property, and it's so easy to think, because I love it, others will. Right. And this is one thing I see a lot in my business when I'm talking to folks about listing their house and we're talking about repairs. They always look at it kind of from a point of view of what they like, where it should be looked at is what the buyer is going to like. Because as you're making those repairs, you're remodeling that house, you're not doing it for yourself.
Correct.
You're doing it for whoever is going to buy it. And there's a house, and I just talk about this house all the time because it's just a great example of this, that someone bought, overpaid a little bit maybe, but then just kept putting money in and money in. And they, in their mind, and they told me this, in their mind they thought, okay, I'll just do this and somebody will pay a little bit more and a little bit more. And now they've got a house that's probably 25% over market in what they've got in it. And so the only way they'll ever sell it is to take a tremendous loss. And it's because they didn't remove the emotion.
And we run into that because we buy a lot of houses directly from sellers. We buy some from agents, but a lot from directly from sellers. And that's a conversation we have to have a lot with them and say, look, because we formulate what's called 2 forms of value. We look at what's called asset value and affordability value. And what that really means to the new person that might be watching this is we look at what like-in-kind properties have sold for per square foot, and then we take that by the square footage of our property, so it tells us what the asset value is. Right. But we also have to look at the affordability value because, for example, let's say the asset value is $250,000, but in the neighborhood, nothing is sold for more than $200,000. Right. So then, therefore, we have to make sure we're inside that affordability. And a lot of people make that mistake. They go, "Oh, well, all these sold for $100 a square foot. Mine's going to be $250." But the reality is nothing in that neighborhood is sold for more than $200. Just because you have more square footage, the rule of thumb that I always tell anybody is the larger the house, the less per square foot you get.
Exactly right, yeah. There comes a point in the math where the extra square footage really doesn't matter.
Does not matter.
Because the larger the house, I've seen little dinky houses sell for $100 a square foot. Yeah. And the big nice houses go for 80
or 75.
Or 75, right. And it's hard for the seller to reconcile that. Yeah. But it's math. It is what it
it's
is.
it's what the market will bear,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I don't think a lot of them understand. They think, oh well, John sold his for this, I should sell mine for
I'm
this.
dealing with one of those now. Yeah.
But I'm like, but John's house is, bigger than yours, or John's house was completely remodeled and yours isn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just they're emotional. And for an investor, it happens so much. We even see it at our RIA a lot. People will come in and say, look, well, I had this house and I did this work to it. And I'm like, well, but why did you put all that in there?
Yeah.
And we call that just the over improvement of a property.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not needed.
Yeah, and I was in the software business for many years, and we had what we would call feature creep, meaning that as we were developing software, new features would creep in. And I see that a lot in this business.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the state of our local real estate economy as compared to nationwide. What are you seeing here locally? Is it still a good time to get into investing?
No, everybody should stay
Everybody
away.
leave. I love that. It's an awful
It's
time.
an awful market to buy.
That's what I tell her. Don't go into real estate. It's terrible.
No, stay away.
Well, how is because this
we're
hyper
doing-
growth that we're going to
yes,
have? How's
we're
it affect-
doing fabulous. I mean, if we look at like what our market's done, 2017 we did like 1.4 billion in sales. 2018 we did 1.6 billion in sales. I mean,
This is our local market.
this is Madison County.
Okay.
Okay. So we're steadily growing. I mean, we're moving up. Our average listing went from like 175 to almost 200.
Right.
So that tells us that there are more buyers than there are properties, and it's happening. And so our market is not like what we're seeing across in a national aspect, because our community has done so well with just bringing new employment here, new jobs here. So where other markets aren't doing that, their real estate market is starting to see a dip. Where we're bringing more and more and more people here, we don't have enough houses, and that's creating a surge that honestly, I don't see us slowing down for at least a couple of years.
We're a very different market here.
Very different.
I mean, not just different than the rest of Alabama, but different from the rest of the country.
Very different.
Which is good for us.
It is. It is very good. And I say that's because of our elected officials. I really do.
Yeah, Tommy and Paul, our local mayors, do a really good job.
Yes, I mean they are business savvy, and they are looking not just this year. They're looking 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and they're saying, look, everybody else can do their thing, but we're going to make sure we're still thriving and growing. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too. They do a great job of economic development.
Yes.
Thank God for the arsenal.
But nationally, markets aren't doing that well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're slowing down like crazy. I mean, California, Texas, the Northeast. I mean, we're just seeing, there's 140 markets that are already sliding down right now.
Yeah. Do you think that's because they went up too quickly and stayed?
Well,
everybody talks about a bubble, and I'm not sure there's a
I don't
bubble that's
believe in a
about to
bubble.
burst.
Yeah.
But I think
believe all markets shift.
They do, and some shift earlier or later than others. In the time we've got left, give us a little advice to someone who is thinking about becoming an investor, whether that is just providing money or buying a fix and flip or whatever. What's your best advice to folks?
If you're...
Let me guess. It has something to do with the association.
Well, I was going to say, if you're a money person, my best advice is to understand how to deploy that money. That's going to come from either how is it in your bank or is it in a self-directed IRA. I always suggest equity trust for those types of money partners, but it's really understanding how that paperwork moves.
I think that's an important point, because a lot of folks don't realize that rather than just opening a checking account and writing checks, you can funnel it through an IRA. There are things you can do to make the money work better.
Or you can take a 401k, roll it into a self-directed IRA, and you can make 2, 3, 4 times what you're making already. But that's what I would say about the money partners. But for a brand new person, it really comes down to not slowing down a little bit. I share this all the time with new people. You don't have to be in a hurry to run out and look at houses.
Why are young people in such a hurry? Have you noticed this? They get on my nerves.
But that's where mistakes are made in this business. So I tell everybody all the time when someone's brand new and they're like, okay, well, I went to this event and I want to do this, but here's the thing. Do you have your team together? Do you have your funding sources together? Do you understand marketing? Do you understand your market? And they usually say no to all of that.
Right.
Then I say, well, why are you out looking at houses? Like, that's the last thing you need to be doing. So slow down. Yes, it's cool. You like looking at houses. The big dream is there. I get it. But this is a business. It's not a hobby, and you've got to lay the foundation, and that comes from training and educating and investing in yourself. And whether that is the association here or it's through something else, they need to lay that foundation first.
You mentioned at the last meeting, I mean, you guys really did have a packed house. Is this local market too crowded to get into now?
No.
Deals are out there for people who willing
they
to look?
just have to learn how to find them.
Right? Yeah.
So if everybody's calling Tim and saying, "Hey, find me an investment property," then that is too crowded, right?
Not for me, but
right?
yeah, it is. Yeah.
But you understand my point.
Yeah.
That is too crowded. But if they start to hone in their skill sets and say, "Okay, well, let me learn how to find direct-to-seller lead types," then it's not.
Yeah,
and
that's one of the things that I get a lot of phone calls. Tim, can you find me an investment property? And I'm more than happy to look.
Right.
But what you're saying is they also need to be, excuse me, proactive and be out there looking and networking. And what is the best way to find a property?
Well, that's a hard thing to say because we do so many of them. And I'll give you the formula that I tell everybody. If you want to do 10 deals a year, then you need 10 lead sources. And a lead source could be other wholesalers in the market sending you deals. It could be property management companies sending you deals from burned out landlords. It could be calling for sale by owners. It could be bandit signs. It could be direct mail. It could be an agent. It could be a bird dog. You stack all of these different sources around you. And your mindset is I expect one deal per year from that lead source. Now, you might get 5 out of that one. But if you go into it thinking it like that, then you're building the right network and influence of lead sources to come in that you can start picking and choosing.
Final question. What are your thoughts on using the internet to find those lead sources or to find those deals?
We do it all the time. It's something that is a different skill set for most people, and some of them are intimidated about it. And they just don't understand it. One of the reasons we hold a one-day marketing boot camp to not just show them the different ways to market their business, but also if they do want to go online, like what are some of the ways to market on Facebook, YouTube, how to do Google, how to do retargeting, like what are some of those avenues for them?
Awesome. Zach Childress, you are the man.
I've been doing it 16 years.
Well, that's why you are the man. You're the man here at the desk. So, hey, if folks want to get more information about the Madison County Real Estate Investors Association, working with you, all the benefits, how do they do that?
It's super easy. You just go to MadisonCountyREIA.com, and you can find all kinds of stuff on there. From our meetings to what we have going on, resources, free training, local interview experts, we have everything on there. And, as a free gift, if you guys just want to get a free ebook, I have an ebook called 24 Mistakes New Investors Make When They First Start Out, and you can get that at 24realestatemistakes.com.
In fact, we were going to do a series based on the book
as
soon as we can get it scheduled.
We sure
You're a busy fella.
I enjoy what I do.
Also, you do, is it a weekly live show? Talk a little bit about everything you're doing on Facebook and YouTube and that, because he does a ton of free content.
Yes, and so we're pushing everything underneath the RIA stuff right now. Okay. So we're doing real estate investing talk shows that'll all be in there. We're doing interview with local experts. They'll be in there. We have a monthly show where we actually talk about market overview, where we are this month, where we are last month, so that we keep investors up to date with what's going on. But you'll find all of that on the website up on the top under talk shows.
All right, very good. We'll put links down below. Hey, buddy. It's been fun.
Yeah, man.
This is actually our second attempt. We did it before in the camera. I'm blaming it on the camera. It was probably operator error. Hey, hope you enjoyed that. Tell everybody you know what we do here. If I can serve you in any way when it comes to real estate, just give me a call, 256-679-0704, or look us up at revolved.com. Appreciate you, buddy. See you soon.